Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel, and today we're looking at a relatively old product but one that is still being used and praised by magicians and mentalists to this day, and that is Will to Read by Steve Dela and ALAKAZAM Magic. I'm excited to do this review. This was the first time I bought it. This is recent. I didn't own Will to Read for that long, which is surprising because of how good this is. So I can't wait to give you guys a review on it. Let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Will to Read. So what is Will to Read? Will to Read is essentially an ending to the free will plot in which the choices of the spectator have been predicted from the very start. There's also some nice additions to this that you can add in order to make the routine even more fooling. Now, I'm going to perform to you the way that I like to perform Will to Read, but I cannot do it to the full extent because I do not have anyone with me, and to do this type of performance, you do need someone to talk with and to bounce off answers from, and since there's no one here, I cannot do that. But you would still, I'll perform it to you and I'll explain to you and I'll just skip that part, but still reveal for you how it would play out. So, you would introduce here an envelope, and you say that inside of this envelope, you keep a page of a book that you found very interesting, because you fell upon a study a few years ago that said that people, when you ask them to focus on a certain task, they kind of forget what's around them for brief moments. They notice things, but they don't actually notice that they notice. The best example for this is the gorilla video, if you know. There's a video online that circulates where you ask someone to count how many people pass through the video. So people pass through and you ask them to count, and they never see that there's like a gorilla, a giraffe, a rhinoceros that pass through the band, and they never actually notice them because they're so focused on counting the people that what's around them just leaves their mind. But that stays imprinted in their mind. So what that study did is that afterwards, if you ask someone to think of an animal, they're most likely to name one of those three animals, which was really fascinating to me. It really blew my mind because I was part of that. I tried the test without knowing what it was, and I thought of a gorilla, and they were like, "Do you know why you thought of that? Look at the video again." And then I was mind blown, right? So what I found out is that that works with words as well and with pages as well. So what I'm going to have you do here is I'm going to try and influence you and your decisions that you're going to make in a moment by having you think of a word. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you take this page, and I'm going to have you go on either side of the page. I won't even look, so you can play with it however you want. And I'm going to have you think of a long word on either side of the page, but make it a 6-7 letter word. Make it something longer. Don't make it something like if, and, but. Those are just boring and it doesn't serve any purpose. So think of any word, and when you're done, just fold it back and place it on the table. So they're going to think of one word and they fold that back and place it onto the table. Now that that's done, you tell them, perfect. So now you have one word in your mind, correct? Let's try this with you. You would go through a small process, and then you would say, okay, I think I got the word. You would take a bank business card, you would write the word, and you would place it on the table and tell them, we're going to get to that in a moment, okay? So that's essentially what you would do. So you'd have this onto the side with a word printed on it. Then you say, okay, now that we've done that, we're going to get to that in a moment. I want to try something else. So let's use here this pen. Let's use here an extra one of these cards, and let's use here a coin as well. Okay? So these three objects, mix them up on the table however you want. So let's say they mix them up like this. And you tell them, great. Now I want you to pick up any two of the items. Let's say they go for this and this. You tell them, perfect. Now what you're going to do is you're going to give me one of these items and you're going to keep one of these items. Which one do you want to give to me? Let's say they give me the card and they hold on to the coin. So you say, these are all your decisions. You gave me the card, you held the coin, and you left the pen on the table. 100% free will choices, right? You made this with your full decisions. You didn't feel influenced at all, correct? But you remember what I said is I was going to have you look at a word there in purpose of influencing your choices after. And if you open this page right here, I don't know if you can read here towards the top. I know the camera won't pick it up, so I'm going to read it myself. It says right here, it says, it was odd. Even with all their cleverness, they didn't know what to do next. Hey guys, listen up. I've had a vision. I will have the card, which is exactly what you gave me you will have hold of the coin, which is exactly what you did. And it is always the pen that gets put away out of sight in the pocket or on the table. And that is exactly what happened in this scenario. So by thinking of one word, you didn't even see the clear instructions that I was putting in your head before you even did what you did. That's interesting, right? It's really impressive. But you were also thinking of a word. You could have thought of any word. What was the word that you thought of? Let's say they say cleverness. You say cleverness. I wrote down one word on this piece of paper, and it is exactly cleverness. So that is essentially a performance of Will to Read by Steve Dela. Again, it doesn't really play out nice because I didn't have a pocket for a spectator to put his things in. I didn't have a spectator for the word reveal. But you do get an idea of what the routine is still, I hope. So now that you know what this is, let's talk about where you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So you can buy this from ALAKAZAM Magic. It costs, I think, £30, which is around 35 US, which is 44 Canadian dollars. What you get is this envelope. Inside of this envelope, you get an instructional video with Steve Dela and Peter Nardi that explain to you all of that you need to know about the effect. You get additional pages. So you get, I think, 2 pages that are double-sided, 2 pages that are kind of single-sided, that you can choose whether or not to perform with because there's different ways to go around with the routine. I like the single page version, but if you want, you can use the double page version. It is up to you. You get that provided to you. The pages are really good quality. They're pretty sturdy. They look very nice. Then you also get provided an envelope. So you get provided this envelope. This envelope you can use as a single envelope or as an extra little utility for if you want to perform this with the 2-page version. You can do that as well, but that is what is provided to you in your package. So now that you know this, let's talk about difficulties. How difficult is this to perform? If you want to perform only the free will plot with the reveal of the book, it is extremely easy. It is super easy. There's basically only a bit of pattern that you need to know. If you know how free will plot works, you know how this works as well. It's just the reveal. However, if you want to do the word reveal, it will require a bit more practice, a bit more memory work, and a bit more boldness. I like that. I like having a bit of boldness that is still going to hit. So you're not going to fail, but it will be a bit bold in how you approach it, but it's still very good. And I think that just the story, this was Peter Nardi's story, by the way, that about the experiment. I added my own knowledge of it because I know it exists. So I find this thing fascinating where you can start out by having them think of a word, you write it down, you place it to the side and tell them, while looking at that word, I was actually giving you instructions. Did you pick up on them? They're going to say, no. You say, you didn't. Well, let's try this. You put in the items, you do the thing, and you say, well, you made all of these choices, correct? And I told you that I was handing you out instructions to exactly what to do, and you haven't noticed them? You remember on the page you were looking for a word. Look here. Did you read the page? No, but I think you did subconsciously while looking for the word because look what it says. I find that very good. So I think it is worth learning and putting in the work to do the word reveal and then the free will rather than just use this as a free will device. If you want, you can just use this as a word reveal as well. So you don't even have to do the free will. You can just use this as a word reveal and have them think of any word and reveal that if you so want. So yes, if you want to do just the free will plot, easy. If you want to do the word reveal or the word and the free will plot in tandem, it will require a bit more work from you. Okay, but nothing too hard. I would say free will plot easy, the word and free will plot, or just the word intermediate level. That's what I would say. So now we know difficulty, let's talk about practicality. So what do you need in order to perform this? One, you're gonna need your, you don't need the envelope. I just like to bring it out of the envelope. It makes it a bit more mysterious. But you can just have the piece of paper that's inside. You're gonna need a coin, a pen, and a card. So it doesn't have to be a business card, but whatever you want. Since I'm doing the word reveal as well, I like to have a stack of business cards so that I can write this here, place it here, and then just take another one from the stack of cards and say, okay, we're gonna use this, this, and this, and you're good to go. So what you're gonna need is at least one card, one coin, one pen, and the page. So nothing too much. This could all fit in your wallet or in your pocket at any moment's notice, and you're gonna be good to go. Now, in terms of repeatability, is this repeatable? it is repeatable to some extent, and it is fully repeatable, because if you are technically forcing someone to a certain set of instructions, it makes sense that every single table or every other table is going to have the same instructions, right? Because if you're forcing them to think of that, it makes sense that the outcome would be the same, and it makes it more impressive then to people if they talk about it. In this case, they're going to be like, no way you did it. That actually worked. What he was telling me actually is real. I can't believe it, right? So it makes sense. So yes, it is going to be the same outcomes. The words are going to change, but the outcomes are relatively going to be the same. But that's going to make the trick more impressive rather than less impressive as other tricks would, right? So keep that in mind. Angle-wise, it is pretty much, I would say, 180 to 360. I would say most of it is 360, is just if you want to do the word reveal and you're not really willing to do the memory work, you're going to need to find a way to get the word, and that will require maybe a bit of a stricter angle restrictions. So I would say maybe 180, but if not, you can still do this 360 if you so want. In terms of inspectability, the page is inspectable. I don't think the spectator is going to notice anything much. So I would let them look at it quickly, not too much, but I would let them look at it. If you are worried of inspectability, as I said, there's a version that is provided to you where the page is fully inspectable. They can fully look at it, examine it head to toe, both sides. They will not find a single thing. So there's that provided to you as well. Do you need a table for this? The answer is yes. I think you do need a table. I do see a way you can do this without a table, but I just think it's going to be too quirky, too confined. So I think this is better if you have a little table. You don't need much table space. You just need to place down these 3 items and that's it, right? So nothing too complicated regarding table space as well. And the reset is instant. So all you have to do is put the page back in your wallet or your pocket, put the items back in your pocket, and you're reset, ready to go. So where would you perform Will to Read? Will to Read works really well in close-up scenarios, really well in close-up table hopping, cocktail type scenarios, or small parlor shows like 5 or 10 people. However, for stage or big parlor cabaret shows, or even Zoom, this is not really something I would perform or would do in those scenarios. This is really something for close-up performances, in my opinion. So I would stay rooted to that. Now that we know all of this, what are the positives and negatives of Will to Read? Let's talk first about the negatives. What are the negatives of Will to Read? One of the negatives is that if you want to do the word reveal, it is a bit convoluted and it is a bit complicated, and you will have to put some work into getting it done. And even if you don't want to put that mental work, that will maybe restrict you a bit in your angles in order to do the more easy version, so that you won't be able to do 360 if you want to do that version. So it's going to restrain a bit your angles. But yeah, it is a bit more convoluted, so you're going to have to keep that in mind if you want to do the word reveal. But that's the only negative that I can think of. Now moving on to the positives. 1, this fits in your pocket, in your wallet. You can even do this pretty much impromptu. If you have the page, you can just borrow a card, or you can just make a card from a paper. You can borrow a coin and you can borrow a pen, and you are good to go. This is as impromptu almost as it gets. If you place that in your wallet or in the back of your phone case, you'll have it with you at all times. And as long as you see a pen, a coin, and a card, you'll be able to do this at a moment's notice. It is still pretty much relatively easy to do. It packs a punch. It is super fair. The story behind it is what hits me really. It really hits me on the head. I love the fact of the story that Peter Nardi put. I think it just elevates the effect to new heights. I think that it's great. It's also really practical. You can do it in pretty much all close-up scenarios, in intimate scenarios. It's going to work extremely well. So I am in the boat with everyone else that this is incredible. So yes. Now, would I recommend Will to Read? What do I give it out of 10? Would I recommend it? Yes. I think if you're a mentalist or if you like the free will plot, you will probably not find better. I know Thy Will Be Done by Alexander Marsh is something that I use a lot and that I really love, but I think that Will to Read does have a note a bit better than that, but I still perform Thy Will Be Done because I love performing with tarot cards. So in certain instances where it's more, I'm doing like pendulum stuff and I'm doing more personal effects like Thread of Life that I reviewed recently, I would prefer to do Thy Will Be Done. But if I'm doing like a pure mentalism set and I'm doing something like ABC by Spidey, that's a bit more fun, or a bit more conversational mentalism, I would rather do something like this rather than something else. So I think this is great. I am going to use it. It's already something that I have used and I will be using. So I'm giving it a 9 on 10 and I fully recommend it. So thank you everyone for watching. Leave a comment down below as always, and I see you all in my next review. Have a great one.